I never thought a millionaire's anger could spark truth and intense silence in the office. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The tension in the air felt heavy. My heart raced as that familiar chill crawled down my spine. The room was packed, colleagues, friends, even the janitor paused, brooms still in hand. We all held our breath, waiting for the storm to hit. He entered like a whirlwind. Michael Bennett, a man whose wealth was only overshadowed by his temper. His sharp suit glistened under the fluorescent lights, but his face was a storm cloud. Angry eyes scanned the office, locking onto me. Tears pricked my eyes, not from fear, but from the trembling disbelief that filled me. I'd seen him furious before, but today felt different. The whispers cascaded. Did you hear about the merger? He lost millions. His family. Each fragment of conversation twisted my gut into knots. I had worked closely with him, our late-night brainstorming sessions turning into personal confessions. But today, I stood in the eye of his wrath, vulnerable, exposed. In the midst of it all, I thought of my mother. She always said that money couldn't buy happiness, but I had seen Michael smile when he told stories of his childhood. The love for family had painted joy on his face. But today that joy felt like a distant memory, buried under the weight of greed and desperation. Suddenly, he hurled a stack of papers across the conference table. They fluttered like wounded birds, landing with soft thuds. You think you understand? You don't know what I've sacrificed. His voice echoed, 1,000 shards of glass cutting through my heart. I wanted to scream back, to tell him that behind the wealth, he was just a man, conflicted, broken. But I stood there, paralyzed. The room fell silent, every heart racing. I could hear my own heartbeat, pounding painfully in my ears. This wasn't just about a merger. This was about his life, perhaps his legacy. Was I a part of that, or merely collateral damage? My soul trembled, fighting against the tide of uncertainty. Then he turned. Just like that, the rage slipped. Tears glazed his eyes as vulnerability seeped in. A glimpse of the man behind the fortune. What was this? A crack in his armor? Silence engulfed us again, suffocating yet charged. I couldn't pull my gaze away from the raw pain etched across his face. It was a depth I had never witnessed. The air felt electric, thick as molasses. Every second stretched out. You think him just a rich man? His voice wavered, vulnerability spilling over. You have no idea what I'm capable of, what I've done. My breath caught in my throat. What did that mean? Then the moment shattered. A loud crash from the hallway broke the tension, pulling us from that fragile space. We all turned. I could see shadows lingering at the door. The whispers resumed, filled with uncertainty, but I was lost. What had he done? What secrets lay behind that facade of wealth and power? I couldn't shake off the chill gripping my chest. The questions swarmed as my heart raced. What truth would unfold? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The commotion in the hallway drew us back to reality, shattering the fragile remnants of connection that had sparked just moments before. I felt the air shift, the oppressive weight of uncertainty pressing down on my chest as anxiety coiled tighter within me. What had just passed between us, a glimpse of Michael's fractured humanity, seemed to evaporate into the chaos of the office. People whispered and shuffled, but my focus was trained solely on him. The storm on his face was replaced with a haunting stillness as he turned away, each step echoing like a ticking clock, counting down to something inevitable. My heart clenched, the question of what comes next swirling in my mind. I needed to understand. I reached for the door, but a sudden rush of colleagues pouring in from the hallway halted me, a flood of anxious energy, faces painted with confusion and curiosity. Within that crowd, I caught a glimpse of Sarah, our office assistant. Her eyes held a mixture of concern and empathy as she found me amidst the chaos. "Are you okay?" she whispered, the clamor of voices fading into the background. It was just the two of us in that moment, connected by mutual concern and the shared weight of witnessing this unraveling. I don't know. I think I need to talk to him," I stammered. Sarah nodded, but her brow furrowed, a clear indication that she understood the weight of my attempt. "I think he needs some time," she suggested gently, but there was a knowing in her voice, a truth that echoed with the shadow of fear. I could feel her hesitation, yet in her worry, I found a flicker of encouragement. Still reeling from the storm, I silently cursed my own uncertainty, and when I looked up, Michael was gone. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. What was he capable of? What had he done? The hours dragged on. The office felt like an arena, whispers circling like vultures, finding every last scrap of gossip to feast upon. I tried to focus on my work, my fingers tapping the keyboard absent-mindedly, but every word turned into an enigma. The papers scattered across the conference table remained stark reminders, a stark contrast to what we once shared. And then the phone buzzed, jarring me from my daze. It was a text from Michael. My pulse quickened, fingers trembling as I opened it. "Meet me at the cafe around the corner." "I'll explain." Hope surged, battling against the engulfing fear. My heart raced as I grabbed my coat, slipping out of the office without another glance at my distracted colleagues. The cafe was just a short walk, yet it felt like embarking on a journey into the unknown. As I entered the small, bustling cafe, the familiar scent of coffee tickled my senses, but was quickly overshadowed by a swell of apprehension. I spotted Michael in the back corner, staring out the window as if seeking answers from the past. He looked utterly lost, a man drowning beneath layers of regret. I slid into the seat opposite him. "Michael," I began, but he held up a hand, cutting me off. "Just listen." His voice was hoarse, a mixture of exhaustion and despair. "There are things about my past, things I never wanted anyone to discover." With every word, I felt my heart ache. "What happened?" I barely managed to murmur. He took a breath, his gaze finally meeting mine, deep eyes clouded with history. "When you're rich, people expect you to navigate the world without consequence, but I made decisions," he said, each word heavier than the last. "I've hurt people. And now I'm losing everything." My mind reeled. "Everything?" He nodded, his face a mask of torment. "My family, they might be in danger because of my choices." A silence enveloped us, and I could almost hear the whispered judgments swirling around us, each accusation punctuated by his confession. "I didn't just lose money, I lost people I loved too." My heart ached for him, for the burden he carried alone. "But Michael," I forced the words through the lump in my throat, "it doesn't have to end like this. You can fight back." He scoffed bitterly. "Fight? For what? A reputation? A legacy built on lies? I'm out of options." Just then, the door swung open with a heavy creak, and I turned to see a figure enter, tall, dark-haired, and deeply familiar. My breath hitched. It was Marcus, Michael's estranged brother, the very shadow that lingered behind Michael's successes and failures. "Michael," he called, voice booming across the cafe, slicing through the tension like a knife. Instinctively, I shrank back, unsure of what twisted family history I was now entwined in. It felt as though the universe had turned a fateful page, and I was not prepared for the unfolding chapter. "Why are you here?" Michael's voice stripped with hostility, but beneath it lay a flicker of desperation, a hint of resolution that even he might not have recognized yet. Marcus didn't respond with words. Instead, he reached into his pocket, revealing a small, crumpled piece of paper. The world around us faded, and in that moment, I knew something had changed irrevocably. "Because we need to talk about the truth," he said, his voice heavy with implications that could shatter everything Michael had built. My heart raced as I leaned in, desperate to grasp whatever fragments of clarity they might reveal. What truth could possibly linger between these two men? What had been hidden so carefully that it could upend their lives once more? And with that, I felt a tremor of fear ripple through me. There was more to uncover, threads woven through their shared past that might turn tides and reveal devastating secrets indeed. I was caught in the middle of a storm more profound than I had ever imagined. The silence that followed Marcus's words pressed down on the cafe like an oppressive fog, threatening to engulf us all. Coffee cups clattered in the background, laughter and conversation blurring into indistinct noise as I turned my full attention to the brothers. I could see the rush of emotion flood Michael's face, fear, anger, confusion, each expression playing out like a tragic ballet. Just say it then. Michael erupted, the hiss of pent-up frustration escaping like steam from a boiling kettle. What do you think you can accomplish by dragging all this up now? It's not about you, Michael, Marcus replied, his tone steady but laced with urgency. There are people who deserve to know what really happened. You can't keep hiding. At that moment, I felt as if I was eavesdropping on a family drama that had long been buried beneath layers of pride and secrecy. My instincts screamed at me to leap into the fray, to offer reassurance or courage to Michael, yet my voice remained trapped in my throat. A muscle in Michael's jaw twitched, the pain etched deep into his features. You think this is easy for me? You want to expose me? You think I haven't suffered enough already? The starkness of his words tugged painfully at my heart. You're not alone in this, I finally managed to say, searching Michael's eyes for any sign of hope amidst the chaos. You can let people in. No one can be trusted, he answered bitterly, unwilling to accept the lifeline I was offering, clinging instead to his despair. I could sense the turbulence swirling inside him, a cocktail of guilt and shame that threatened to drown him. Marcus stepped closer, a mix of determination and regret clouding his own face. Maybe not everyone, but you still have family who care, even if you think you don't deserve it. I'm not here to tear you down. I'm here to save you from losing everything. Michael's eyes darted to the window, as if searching for an exit from this emotional nightmare. I could feel the walls closing in, the weight of his secrets threatening to crush him entirely. And somewhere beneath that hardened exterior, I glimpsed the boy who had once believed he could fix everything with a smile and a promise. Look, I said softly, striving for his attention, I know you want to shield everyone from your pain. But the truth has a way of revealing itself, whether you face it or not. Trust is a risk, but if you push everyone away, I'm not good at trusting. His voice was a raw edge, desperation pouring into each syllable. You don't know what I've done, what they'll think of me. What's done is done, Michael, I shot back, my heart racing as I leaned closer, wanting him to feel the sincerity in my words. But you can take control of how this story unfolds. Please, don't shut out the people who want to help. In that moment, the tension in the cafe twisted tighter, and I could sense the eyes of other patrons drawn to our confrontation, absorbing the spectacle of vulnerability laid bare before them. Marcus, sensing the shift, pulled out the crumpled piece of paper. You need to see this, he urged, extending it toward Michael as if it were a lifeline. There's more at stake than just your reputation. This involves the people who have been hurt because of our family, and you owe it to them to confront the consequences of your actions. Michael's gaze landed on the paper as if it were the final puzzle piece in a grim picture. What did you find? He rasped, the reluctance to uncover the truth battling against the undeniable need to confront it. Just read it, please, Marcus insisted, his voice now barely above a whisper. You deserve to know the response to your choices before they define you entirely. The tensions thickened like smoke in the air. All around, the world buzzed with life, yet here we remained locked in our tumult, teetering at the edge of an emotional precipice. Michael slowly took the paper, hands trembling as he opened it. I held my breath, every second feeling like an eternity. As he scanned the words, a rage flickered in his eyes, the vulnerability he had just shown giving way to a storm of anger that threatened to consume him. I could see the moment realization crashed down, pieces of the family puzzle that had haunted him for years now shattering into sharp, piercing shards. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open, and an unfamiliar figure stepped in, a woman with long, dark hair and a fierce determination in her eyes. Her gaze locked onto Michael, and she strode purposefully toward our table, brows knitted in concern that felt almost palpable. Michael, we need to talk, she said, her voice filled with urgency that sent a shockwave through the room. I know about it all. About the threats, about the past. A mix of terror and curiosity flooded through me. I glimpsed a stacked deck of emotion, fear, surprise, and an intense ache for resolution. That one phrase, "I know about it all," hung in the air, reverberating through the unbroken silence like a battle cry. Michael's eyes widened as he turned to face the woman, tension crackling between them like electricity. There was so much left unspoken, so many hidden truths dangling in the air, and I realized then that our world was about to shift in ways we could never have envisioned. The weight of our tangled fates felt heavier than ever, each moment spiraling into a web of connected lives intertwined by secrets, truths, and the fear of the unknown. As the woman stood poised to reveal whatever shocking truth rested on her lips, I held my breath, bracing myself for the next twist in our story, a revelation that could lay bare everything or force us into the darkest shadows of doubt and despair. The woman's presence crackled with a kind of urgency that seemed out of place in the cozy cafe, her radiance threatening to slice through the hazy layers of guilt and sorrow that had settled like fog over our conversation. Michael's expression fluctuated between disbelief and simmering rage, and for a brief moment, he appeared like a wounded animal cornered, unsure of what move to make next. "Who are you?" he managed, his voice trembling at the edges, revealing the vulnerability beneath the fury. "My name is Eliza." Her words flowed with confidence as she took a seat across from him without waiting for an invitation. "And we need to talk about your father. About everything that led us here." The mention of Michael's father was a trigger, a raw wound freshly opened. I felt the tension in Michael's shoulders coil tighter, the muscles rippling as if preparing for the onslaught of inevitable confrontation. "What do you know about my father?" His question was low, edged with both aggression and a flicker of fear of the unknown, fear that the secrets he had so carefully guarded could tumble out into the light. Eliza looked at Marcus, who stood in a protective stance beside Michael, a silent assurance flooding through the space between them. "I know that he's still pulling strings, still manipulating from the shadows, and if you don't take control now, Michael, you might lose everything you never thought you had." All around us, whispers began to ripple through the cafe, the gentle clinking of cups replaced by hushed gasps and murmured speculation. It felt as if we were no longer in the comfort of a familiar space, but rather trapped in a crucible where secrets would either forge a tighter bond or shatter everything. "Enough," Michael barked, as both anger and pain intensified in his voice, his eyes flaring. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" Eliza's tone was steady, cutting through his disbelief. "I know about the increase in threats against the people who've tried to help you. I know that whatever happened in your past is resurfacing, and you won't face it alone unless you let someone in." The air thickened with a suffocating pressure, and I could see Michael's heart clash against a mountain of emotions, each vying for his attention. Inside him, the storm brewed, regret, betrayal, fear. They danced together in a dissonant symphony of chaos. Just when I thought his walls might crack, a flicker of resolve crossed his face. "You're wrong." His declaration was resolute, yet it felt like the thin ice of denial barely holding firm. "I can handle my father. I can handle everything." I reached out, instinct driving me to bridge the chasm of pain between us. "Michael, please stay out of this." He snapped, and the words cut deeper than I expected. The look in his eyes told me he was scared, but maintaining control felt like a responsibility he couldn't relinquish. Eliza's gaze softened, catching the vulnerability hidden behind his facade. "You can keep convincing yourself you're alone in this. But I'm telling you, the past isn't just lurking, it's hammering at your door. You're being pulled deeper, and soon enough, you might regret not having opened it sooner." Her words were a lifeline, my heart drawing hope from the spirit she exhibited, and yet Michael seemed oblivious, caught in a spiral of distrust and defiance. The flicker of hope that had seemed achievable moments ago snuffed out, leaving a void that echoed with loss and uncertainty. Just then, the cafe door swung open once more, drawing our attention as a sudden gust of wind sent papers fluttering about. A man stepped in, body rigid with resolve. He possessed a certain gravitas that instantly silenced the murmurs. His face was familiar, though I couldn't quite place it. "Michael," he called, voice authoritative yet laced with an unexpected gentleness. "You need to come with me. It's about your family. We don't have much time, The momentigo of reality sat upon my heart as Michael's eyes flitted from the man to Eliza, the air crackling with tension in the room as he wrestled with the choice laid bare before him. Who the hell are you? Michael's voice was jagged, still laced with raging emotions, but something shifted in him, a spark of curiosity, perhaps even hope. We've been looking for you, the man replied, their shared history hanging like a ghost between them. As the conversation escalated, the walls of the cafe felt like they were caving in, and I sensed that everything was about to unravel in ways I could never have predicted. The unresolved turmoil hung heavy in the air, clenching tighter around our throats, while possibilities I hadn't dared entertain danced defiantly in the periphery, wild and untamed. What lay ahead felt unknowable. An emotional cliff leading us toward unforeseen consequences. Would Michael heed the warning or stick his head further into the sand, sealing his fate? The uncertainty loomed like an impending storm, each heartbeat thrumming with the knowledge that the truth was not just coming, it was already here. The atmosphere in the cafe grew electric, tension weaving through the air like a charged current. Michael's eyes darted between Eliza and the man, now stepping closer with purpose. It was as if time stretched, each breath heavy with unspoken words. The familiarity of the stranger's presence gnawed at me, but my focus remained on Michael, who teetered on the brink of revelation. I don't have time for games, Michael said, the veneer of bravado slipping as urgency etched itself into his features. Neither do I, the man replied, his voice calm yet urgent. But this isn't a game. Your father has a plan, and it's time you understood what that means for all of us. The mention of Michael's father set off an avalanche of memories, moments filled with anger and bitterness that had left scars deeper than any physical wound. I could see Michael visibly struggle against the tide of dread that rose at the mention of his father. The man reached into his pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper, an invitation, a plea, or perhaps a warning. Look at this, he urged, extending it toward Michael. It's a recent threat. You're in danger not just from your father, but from those he has surrounding him. Michael hesitated, his sense of self-defense holding him back. I don't need your pity. I can handle this. But even as he spoke, his hands trembled, revealing cracks in the armor he had built. Maybe you need to stop handling it on your own, Eliza interjected gently, her arms resting on the table as she leaned forward. We've all faced demons we thought we could conquer alone. Sometimes it takes reaching for someone else to find the strength. The man's gaze softened at her words, and he nodded in agreement. I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that. Trust me, it's more than just your life at stake. It's everyone around you. In that moment, Eliza's steady presence began to pierce through Michael's resistance. I wished for him to choose to trust them, to embrace the supportive hand offered to him, rather than withdraw behind a facade of bravado. Still, I understood the battle raging inside him. The walls had built over time served both as protection and as a prison. I don't know you, Michael finally said, voice wavering. I don't know if I can put my life in your hands. Then let us prove it. The man's eyes sparkled with determination, drawing everyone's attention back to him. Meet me at the old warehouse on Maple Street tonight at 7. There's something you need to see. Something that will change everything. The cafe buzzed with murmurs and shifting energy, yet in our corner of the world, it felt achingly still, a delicate bubble teetering on the edge of breaking. Then, with a flicker of recognition, I turned to the man. Wait, are you? Before I could finish, he nodded subtly, confirming my suspicions. You don't have to go alone, Michael, I urged, reaching out across the table, hoping to anchor him to the choice laid out before him. Whatever it is, we can face it together. He looked into my eyes, and there was a fleeting instant where I could feel the gears shifting in his mind. The boiling anger began to cool, replaced by vulnerability and doubt. But then, like an unexpected wave crashing down, Michael jerked back, his expression hardening. I don't need saving. The denial ignited a flash of frustration in me. This isn't weakness, Michael. It's strength to ask for help. His gaze flickered toward the paper the man still held, uncertainty clawing at the edges of bravado he was trying to maintain. I can't, he whispered. The resolve that had fought so fiercely began to turn in on itself, a gale force inward storm tossed in a sea of chaotic thoughts and emotions. Eliza and the man exchanged worried glances, sensing his inner turmoil, and I noticed a flicker of compassion in their shared understanding. They both had a history with emotional battles, ones carved deeper than anyone knew. A kind of bond one wished to see Michael experience. Suddenly, the front door of the cafe swung open again, but this time it wasn't the wind or the scent of fresh coffee that flooded the space. It was a wave of tension, a burst of energy, as another figure strode inside, a woman clad in a long, dark coat, with an icy demeanor that contrasted sharply with the warmth of the cafe. "Michael," she called out, voice smooth and unsettling as it sliced through the murmur of conversations. Steely eyes locked onto him, and the moment hung in a palpable silence, questions blooming like wildflowers in spring. Who was she, and what did she want? As the tension coiled tighter, my heart raced at the uncertainty of her arrival. Michael's expression shifted, confusion painting his features as he turned to her, and I could feel the weight of what was about to unfold loom large around us. Would this stranger cripple the fragile connection we were trying to forge, or would she ignite an entirely new chapter of turmoil? "Get away from them," he warned, stepping instinctively in front of Eliza and me. But my heart sank with the realization that the real storm was just beginning. The tension in the cafe thickened like fog, wrapping around us, drawing each breath into a heavier ache. Michael stood defensively, betraying no weakness, yet the fear glimmering in his eyes told a different story. "What do you want?" he demanded of the woman, every furrow of his brow a battle against the ghosts of his past. She made a chilling gesture that seemed so out of place in that warm cafe. "I'm here to help, Michael. Don't mistake my intentions." Her voice dripped with double meanings, and I felt sick with unease. This was no stranger. Her confidence suggested a connection deeper than mere coincidence. "I don't need your help," he shouted, the desperation behind his words contrasting sharply with the bravado in his stance. I could see the cracks widening in his armor, the fraying edges of his tightly held bravado showing that help was exactly what he needed, help that he was too afraid to accept. "Michael, please," Eliza whispered, her own vulnerability bubbling to the surface now. "Just listen to her. If she knows something about your father, it might be worth hearing her out." Her voice, laced with a mixture of hope and fear, attempted to bridge the growing chasm between him and the unknown. The woman took a step closer, her gaze relentless. "Time is running out. I know about the threats, and your father is far more dangerous than you can comprehend. You must understand, he has plans that extend beyond just you. Don't listen to her." I interjected, feeling the need to shield Michael from the overwhelming flood of confusion. This could be a trap. We can't trust her. However, I knew deep down that conflicts like these often birthed inconvenient truths. Perhaps, buried within the storm of her presence, there might be a revelation they both desperately needed. Michael wrestled internally, his jaw clenched, eyes darting toward the invitation in the man's hand, then back to this mysterious woman. His struggle mirrored my own, balancing between fear and the flicker of a Christmastime hope that surged within him, need to untangle the mysteries surrounding his existence. Suddenly, the cafe door swung fully open again, bringing in a blustery gust of cold air. The bell jingled sharply, slicing through the fraught atmosphere. We all turned toward the entry, where an older man, stooped but sturdy, shuffled in. He wore a weathered coat, and his hair was silver and unkempt. His labored breathing caught our attention, and a collective anticipation rippled through us as his eyes scanned the room until they locked onto Michael. "Son?" he croaked, a blend of confusion and concern clouding his features. "What are you doing here?" The frail but familiar voice sent a shiver racing through me. It was Michael's estranged grandfather, the last remaining thread to the family disintegration. "Grandpa?" Michael's tough demeanor faltered, as if this unexpected appearance carved a path through the storm. "I didn't know you were. What's going on?" the old man demanded, weaving through the tables toward us, his frailty accentuated by the weight of uncertainty in his gaze. There was an urgency in his step that suggested he, too, understood the severity of this moment. "You look like you've been cornered." "I need you to listen to me," The woman stepped back, her confident facade briefly shaken. Michael's tension remained but twisted into something else, curiosity intertwined with fear. Here was yet another piece of an intricate puzzle that had been pieced together by past choices and unintended neglect. You don't know the half of it, do you? His grandfather continued, sparking a flicker of recognition in Michael's eyes. You're caught in a game far more complex than any of us realized. There it was, a dark undercurrent threatening to drag Michael under, pulling him into a past that housed secrets and disappointment wrapped in the guise of a family legacy. But his grandfather, with weathered eyes that had seen too much, appeared to possess knowledge that could unlock doors we never dared to pry open. What do you mean? The words slipped out before Michael could think, the curiosity now entangled with desperation. Your father has enemies, Michael. And they will come for you if you don't understand your role in all of this. He paused, glancing around as if afraid to attract the wrong kind of attention. And it's time you knew everything. All of it. A strange camaraderie built among our small group as we sensed the truth hovering just above our heads like a storm cloud, waiting for a single spark to crash down. But I also knew this was the kind of truth that could tear relationships to shreds, a force unlike any other. Just tell me, Michael urged, voice thick with urgency. But I could see the doubt behind his bravado. It was a fragile moment, teetering on the edge between fear and bravery, vulnerability and defense. As the tension carved deeper lines in each of our faces, the woman stepped back, almost as if she knew that she had lost ground. But then I noticed something, a glimmer in her eyes, a darker world held within her that I had yet to understand fully. Forget everything you think you know, she said softly. Except for this. You have the power to change your fate. The question is whether you're brave enough to accept it. Before Michael could respond, the old man grabbed his shoulders, steadying him with an urgency that echoed through the cafe. We need to talk. Not here. Not now. There's no time to waste, and in that moment my heart raced, not just for Michael but for myself. Choices circled like vultures over a field of wildflowers, and the truth hung precariously above us. Would we embrace its weight, or would we allow fear to dictate our paths? But before we could move, the door swung open again, the sound echoing like a foreboding chime, and a figure appeared in the doorway, familiar yet alien. My breath hitched in my throat as the realization struck me. It was Michael's father, stepping into our midst like a hidden shadow made real. And with him, darkness whispered a promise of chaos as the storm approached, wielding the name of betrayal. Michael's heart raced as he stood at the precipice of his past, the air thick with tension and fear. There he was, his father, standing in the doorway, exuding an energy that crackled like static electricity, sending chills down my spine. The cafe dynamics shifted, a fragile truce shattering at the mere sight of this man. The smile that had graced the woman's face vanished, replaced by an unreadable expression as she scrutinized the newcomer. Michael, his father's voice was dark and commanding, a stark contrast to the vulnerability that had just flickered through his son's features. What are you doing with them? He stepped forward, eyes narrowing as they swept over each individual gathered in the cafe, as if he were evaluating threats lurking beneath innocent facades. Enough, Michael shouted, surprising us all with a sudden surge of confrontation. I'm not afraid of you anymore. His hands balled into fists at his sides, but I could see the tremor betray the rage bubbling beneath his skin. A battle was raging between the son yearning for acceptance and a past that had left him broken. Is that so? His father retorted, a smirk dancing on his lips as he approached, his presence heavy with unspoken dominance. You think you can turn your back on what you are? What I made you. From the edge of my vision, I noticed Eliza inching closer to Michael, the connection between them anchoring him to the present. She maintained a calm expression, but I could sense her heart thudding in sync with the chaos. The woman, merely a few steps back, observed the unfolding scene with a calm intensity, though I could discern a flicker of worry crossing her features. Enough of this. We need to leave, Michael's grandfather interjected, his frail voice cutting through the thick tension. There's nothing left for you in this place. Is that your plan? To run away? His father sneered, glancing dismissively at the old man as if he were nothing more than a misstep in an otherwise perfect game. You think they're going to save you? His gaze returned to Michael, dark and penetrating. They don't understand the price of family. They can't protect you. For a moment, silence filled the cafe, broken only by the muffled clinks of cups and hushed whispers of patrons straining to soak in the unpublic spectacle unfurling before them. I felt a knot tightening in my belly as Michael's gaze flickered, uncertainty threading through the bravado that had surged forth. "Let them try," Michael finally said, and he looked directly into his father's eyes, no longer the boy who cowered in the shadows, desperate for approval. This was a different Michael, one who had tasted fight and determination, one who was hopeful enough to believe in both truth and the courage brewing inside him. But his father chuckled a low, menacing sound. "Truth? You think you can handle the truth?" He leaned closer, towering over Michael. "Your mother, she gave everything to a lie, and you are the culmination of a sick game that I control. You think you'll sit back while you rebel against your fate? You don't get to decide that for me." Michael snapped back, fury blazing in his eyes. I held my breath, the energy of his defiance both thrilling and terrifying. "Your fate?" The woman's voice intruded softly yet fiercely, drawing all attention back to her. "This isn't just about a muddled past of fathers and sons. It's about a future you can shape, Michael. You can choose to take control." Her gaze shifted from Michael's father to the elder who had come to protect their bloodline. "If you truly want to escape this cycle, you must confront it head-on together." I watched intense emotions play across Michael's face. Fear, anger, confusion, and the hope flickering like a candle in the wind. But then came the realization his father possessed the power to douse that flame, and the stakes were higher than we believed. Enough resistance. "It's time to come home, Michael," his father demanded, voice a low growl, filled with unyielding authority. "The world is far more complex than you could ever understand. I'm offering you a chance at stability, but that world was not stability. It was oppression cloaked in illusions of grandeur, deception masked as security." As Michael's resolve wavered, a wild rush of defiance swelled within me. How had this turned into a battle he didn't even wish to fight, Michael? I took a step closer, desperately grasping to weave my voice in the fabric of this chaos. "You mustn't trust him." Often, those who speak of security hide chains beneath silk gloves. "Let her go," his father ordered, the flick of a switch revealing the depths of his rage. "You don't have to listen to this," but something snapped. The will to defy flowed through Michael like an electric current. He surged forward, stepping between us and his father, pressing his point. "She's right. You don't define who I am anymore. Stop playing with fire." His father roared, rage igniting in his eyes. "You think you can escape? You think you can rewrite your own narrative?" I felt the tension thicken, an unbearable heaviness hanging over USA moment teetering on the knife edge of change. Echoes of past betrayals and promises hung in the air, the unspoken weight of family legacies threatening to crush everything. And then, amidst the chaos, a piercing siren echoed from outside, red and blue lights flashing through the cafe windows. An unexpected intrusion, promising impending doom in the most unpredictable of ways. Michael's father turned, eyes wide with fury. "No, it can't be." His voice trembled with uncertainty as the realization likely dawned upon him that his past, like a specter, had come back to haunt him. Michael's expression shifted from defiance to a profound understanding. His life was about to spiral into depths none of us could anticipate. There we stood, caught in a whirlpool of revelations, choice, and consequences, and then, as the door burst open for someone to step through, tracing the line between danger and salvation, I couldn't shake the feeling that our decisions would echo long after this moment had passed. A hush enveloped the cafe as the door swung open, startling everyone, and in stepped a figure shrouded in mystery and authority. The atmosphere shifted once more as a tall woman with sharp features and striking confidence entered, her eyes scanning the room, landing on Michael's father first, and then on us, like a hawk sizing up its prey. "Richard," she greeted, her voice smooth yet carrying a steel beneath it that commanded respect. "I didn't think you'd be back so soon." Michael's father immediately straightened, his facade of attention and control slipping momentarily at the sound of her voice. "What do you want, Sylvia?" he snapped, his mask of intimidation faltering. "This doesn't concern you." Not anymore, Sylvia replied, taking a step closer, displaying an unyielding assertiveness that sent shivers down my spine. Michael deserves to know the truth. Enough. Michael's father shouted, disbelief twisting his features. You have no idea what you're stirring up here. Leave now, or I'll make sure you regret it. Regret. Michael echoed, a growl of defiance rising in his throat. This has been about you dictating other people's futures for far too long. Let her speak. Elegant and poised, Sylvia glanced at Michael, a spark of understanding lurking in her eyes. Michael, the truth may be your only route to breaking this cycle. What truth? Eliza whispered to me, the gravity of the moment enveloping her. What does she mean? Before I could answer, Sylvia continued, her stance unwavering. I've come to discuss your family's history, truths buried under layers of lies, deceit, and control. Richard likely wants you to believe in a predetermined destiny shaped by him, but enough. Richard roared once again, this time bringing a hand up. You will not corrupt my son with your twisted narrative. Twisted? Sylvia emphasized with a tight-lipped smile that contrasted starkly with Richard's fury. You think controlling him leads to stability? You think shielding him from the truth serves any purpose? Michael shifted restlessly beside me, visibly torn between the fierce confrontation and the shadow of uncertainty that loomed over our heads. What are you talking about? What truth do I need to know? The truth of your lineage, Sylvia began, her voice low and deliberate. Your lives have always been entangled in deception. There are secrets within secrets that could change everything for you, not just your past, but your future. Michael's brows furrowed, confusion warping into fear. What do you mean? Before Sylvia could respond, Richard lunged toward her, his imposing presence attempting to shove her back, but she held firm, edging Michael further into the fold of her words. Behind every layer of this illustrious facade you've been presented lies a history riddled with secrecy, things beyond your father's control, connecting you to a legacy neither of you can ignore. Your father, driven by power, has kept you in the dark. Stop, Richard hissed, his voice quaking with a threat of wrath. You know nothing. Do you think withholding the truth will protect him? She pressed, her gaze fiery, challenging his commanding authority. Or that power can erase what is innate. As Michael stood between his father and the woman revealing long-buried truths, I could sense the tumult swirling around him. I could only imagine the weight of those words. A legacy of lies? The thought pushed against the heart of the crisis he was facing. Tell me, Michael demanded, his voice wavering as he fought to keep his composure. What does it mean for me? Family isn't merely blood. Michael, it's the choices you make with that blood. To accept them or reject them, Sylvia replied, stepping back slightly now, allowing Michael's father to fill the void of her presence once more. Richard, now visibly sweating with rising tension, hissed under his breath. You need to understand that confronting the past will not grant you the freedom you seek. It will shackle you. His eyes bore into Michael, looking for a weak point, for that flicker of hesitation to seize, but there was something about this sudden confrontation that kept the flame of defiance ignited in Michael. You're wrong, he said, his voice steadier. Hiding only allows the darkness to fester. I have to know, and before Richard could react, before he could cloak his son in control once more, Michael moved closer to Sylvia, drawn to her unyielding strength. What is the truth? He demanded, the words echoing in that small cafe like a prayer asking the universe what lay buried in shadows. From behind the cafe's door, I felt the tension crackle like electricity, the air igniting with anticipation, with possibilities. In that moment, the past and future collided, and as if on cue, the bell above the door chimed harshly once more, a sharp reminder of the world outside, each swing of that bell echoing an urgency that could reshape all of us. And just as Michael edged closer to unearthing the truth, the door flung open a final time, a gust of wind catching it wildly, and from the shadows, a figure emerged, one I recognized, but had not been prepared to see. My pulse quickened, stunned disbelief battling the apprehension building inside me. This revelation would upend everything for Michael, and as the figure entered the cafe, the emotion in the air thickened, uncertainty wrapping around us like a heavy cloak. The truth was coming, but at what cost? The figure stepped into the cafe as if time itself had paused to acknowledge their presence. It was Clara, Michael's estranged mother. The room went utterly still, the atmosphere heavy with every unspoken word, every unresolved feeling. I'd heard whispers about her, the woman who had walked away, leaving her family beneath the weight of her absence. Michael turned at the sound of her footsteps, and disbelief lit up his expression, mixing with the spirals of confusion still swirling in his mind. "Mom?" His voice wobbled, almost a question, as a tide of emotions crashed against him. The sight of her was like a beam of light in that dim, suffocating cloud, but it was a light flickering with contingencies. Clara's eyes, a shade of green the first remembered from childhood, were now shadowed by regret, but they glimmered with a determination that told me she was there for a reason. "I had to come," Clara said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, yet echoing across the cafe, shaking the fabric of the moment. Her slender fingers brushed against the edge of the table, and Michael surged forward, the pull of familial gravity proving irresistible. "You left us," he said, accusation laced in his voice, but it was tinged with the yearning of a child still desperately seeking his mother's love. "I had no choice," Clara replied, a storm of emotion swirling behind her hazel eyes. "I thought it was for the best, that you would be safer." Someone scoffed, and I realized it was Richard, relentless as ever. He moved to intercept his estranged wife, his fury palpable. "You don't get to waltz back in here after all these years and spew your excuses. You don't know what you're doing." But Clara's gaze didn't falter. She met Richard's fury with a fierce calm. "No, Richard, it's you who doesn't understand. I left to protect Michael from you, from this world you've crafted through lies." A wave of pain washed over Michael's face, deepening the lines of uncertainty etched on his brow. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice raw with need. "Did you leave because of him? Because of what you knew?" "I never wanted to burden you with our family's truth, but I see now that you have to know," she replied, as if every word was wrestled from the depths of her soul. "It goes beyond just our family. There are forces at play, secrets that have rippled through generations and spread like dark tendrils into our lives." The tension was electric. I felt it constricting my chest. It was almost suffocating to witness this fierce battle over Michael's soul. Sylvia's words resonated in my mind, echoing the buried history and the legacies they carried. But as Clara stepped closer to Michael, the desperation in his eyes shifted, morphing into something deep, a longing for connection, for understanding amidst this chaotic storm, and if knowing the truth means facing a darkness I can't escape? Michael murmured, his bravado faltering momentarily. Clara reached for her son, her hand trembling slightly, but there was a softness in the way she moved. "You have always had the strength to conquer what frightens you," she said, her voice a gentle balm. "But it's in your hands now to choose who you want to be. You can reclaim your own story." The words held a gravity, the weight of a burden being offered in a moment of authenticity. Richard's face twisted in anger, pounding his fist against the table, rattling the cups. "You think telling him these lies will save him? You're only pushing him into the abyss. You have no idea what price the truth can demand." Michael's eyes darted between his parents, the internal conflict creating a visible crack in his trust. "What kind of truth?" he demanded, the fire igniting in his chest once more. "It's about your heritage, Michael. For generations, our family has been woven into a web of power meant to be kept hidden. Part of this world." Clara's voice trembled, and for a moment, her resolution faltered. "A legacy of privilege tied not to just fortune but to darkness." Our surroundings faded into a blurred cacophony of muffled voices and unfulfilled desires as the implications sank in. Michael was caught at the crossroads of his ancestral legacy. He didn't yet understand. "Is that why you left?" Michael whispered, the pain in his voice so tangible it cut through the noise. "Because we were part of something dangerous. I thought by leaving I could break the cycle," Clara replied with tears brimming in her eyes, clashing against Richard's cold, calculating gaze. "But I see now it's too late. It's your life, Michael. You must choose." Then, with an abrupt shift, the cafe door swung open again as a gust of wind swept through, making the air electric once more. A young man stood there, his expression shadowed, his eyes narrowing at the sight of Clara, his jaw tightening with surprise. I couldn't shake the chill crawling up my spine as their gazes locked. "This is the beginning of something none of you expected," he declared, stepping forward with a soft authority. "And you all need to listen." The tension in the cafe thickened, a boiling storm of emotions ready to spill. All eyes were now trained on this unexpected newcomer, who he was, and what truths he would unveil or reinforce. The questions hung in the air, heavy with the promise of impending revelations, shaping our destinies in a way we could never have foresaw. As each moment passed, I felt the ground shift beneath me, my heart racing, aware that the tangled threads of the past were beginning to unravel, exposing a tapestry of truths that could not be ignored. The cafe held its breath, each heart pulsating with uncertainty, while the newcomer squared his shoulders, ready to shatter the glass walls of our carefully constructed realities. "I'm here to help you understand," he began, his voice steady against the clamor of emotions swirling around us. "My name is Eli, and am part of something much larger than any of you realize." Richard's expression contorted with disbelief and disdain. "You think you can just waltz in here and declare yourself the answer? This is family business." "Is it truly family business?" Eli retorted, his tone calm and piercing. "Or is it simply the legacy of manipulation and control choking the life out of what you could truly become?" The words hung in the air, charged with unyielding energy. Michael's face shifted as glimpses of recognition swept through him, a battle of understanding clashing with the fear that had held him captive for far too long. "What do you mean?" he demanded, each syllable laced with a raw urgency that showcased a burgeoning defiance against his father's shadow. Eli advanced, planting hope amidst the storm. "Your family is a tapestry woven with threads of power and darkness, but it is your choice whether you allow those threads to dictate your life or if you choose to weave your own." I watched as Michael's gaze drifted first to his father, whose face was a mask of anger and confusion, then to his mother, Clara, whose eyes glistened with the fierce love that had emerged from her choices. Finally, he met Ellis' steady gaze, emboldened by a flicker of hope. "What secrets are hidden in this legacy?" Michael pressed, the question pouring from him as if it were the very elixir needed to revive his spirit. Eli looked momentarily pained, as if opening Pandora's box could unleash chaos beyond reckoning. "Everything you've been told is a half-truth, shaded by generation secrets designed to protect power rather than foster family." The whisper of heartbreak wafted through the air, but Eli continued, "The truth is, your lineage is crafted not just from wealth, but also from a covenant made in darkness. Your father, while a powerful figure, is also a man steeped in manipulation. He thrives in the shadows, but you do not have to follow that path." Every syllable cut through Michael, stitching together the seams of confusion his father had left unraveling. "Why now?" The words escaped him like a breath of disbelief. "Why reveal this now?" "Because," Eli answered somberly, "there is a storm gathering forces that will rise against you, born from this hidden history. I've come to offer a way to find your own truth before it's too late." "What do you want from me?" Michael faltered, battling against the tempest of emotions swirling within. With every reveal, the burden shifted, threatening to overwhelm him. "Choice," Eli offered simply, his eyes searching Michael's heart. "Your father has cloaked himself in authority, but genuine strength lies in your willingness to challenge the foundations beneath you. You reclaim your power the moment you face the past for what it is." The gravity of Ellis' words seeped into Michael, truth wrestling against the iron grasp of his father's will. "Everything I achieve is based on deceit. Who am I?" he asked, the weight of each word causing tremors in his spirit. "Who you decide to become," Eli replied, unyielding, "is yet to be written. You must choose if you'll remain a pawn in your father's game, or if you'll shift the board altogether." Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes as she took Michael's shaking hand. "Fight, my love. Fight for your truth, for the future you dream of." Suddenly, the cafe door swung open once more, this time revealing a cadre of uniformed officers, their presence illuminating the gravity of the moment. "Is everything all right here?" one of them called out, scanning the tense atmosphere thick with unspoken words. The shift was seismic, The focus darted between Michael and the looming authoritarian presence of his father. Richard's response was immediate, a mask of indignation creeping into place. "It's nothing, just a family discussion." The officer raised an eyebrow. "I don't believe you. We've received a call about potential threats. What's going on?" Richard's demeanor hardened, fierce and protective. "You have no authority here." But Michael stepped forward, heart racing as the ground beneath him shifted. "No, just listen." His voice echoed with a newfound sense of power, grounding each word in a reality he was carving for himself. Truth needs to be faced now more than ever. The air thickened with anticipation. All the lies, facades, and buried secrets hung precariously in the balance. "This family has hidden its truths for too long," Michael continued, his voice steadier now. "I will not be tethered by this legacy. I am choosing to stand against it." Eli stepped back, encouraging, while Clara moved to stand beside Michael, her hand gripping his with shared determination. Richard stood stone-faced, anger coiling in his frame as everything he had wrought began to crack, the tension rattling through the cafe like thunder. "Michael," Richard hissed, panic threading through his command. But no one, neither an authority nor an oppressive past, could shake the resolve that now filled the air. With a single glance shared between Michael and Clara, the decision was solidified. They were united against the specters of the past. As the officers moved closer, a tension snapped like a taut string, shattering the air thick with turmoil. "Sir, I need you to come with us," one officer announced, eyes trained on Richard, whose anger was palpable. "We have questions regarding recent activities." The world paused, then erupted as Richard's mask slipped entirely. "You're making a mistake. This is a family matter." But Michael stepped forward, buoyed by strength he never knew he possessed. "It's not just a family matter anymore. It never was. It's about breaking the cycle." The words unraveled something in Richard, a glimpse of fear no longer tethered to their bond. But it flickered as he roared his final command. "You'll regret this." With that proclamation hanging heavily between us, spokes of fate intertwined in 1,000 possibilities, I felt the weight of the moment crash around me. For the first time, Michael had chosen not to curl inward but to fight, and that decision had shifted everything. As the officers led Richard away, the ripple effects of decision unfolded before us, and I reached for Michael's shaking hands. "We are here for you, whatever path lies ahead." And as Clara wrapped her arms around her son, I could feel echoes entwining within USA powerful Genesis rising, born from the ashes of shadowed legacies. Michael glanced back at the empty doorway, heart racing, but it was forged anew. Today began his journey toward the truth, witnessed by those who loved him. And I could only wonder where the fragmented edges of his past had formed the bridge to an uncharted future descending from the storms above. In that moment, Michael looked to me with a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "Thank you." But as we stood together, the air thick with potential, I realized sometimes the most powerful truth lies in our ability to embrace our choices and step boldly into the unknown. And as we stepped into the future unguarded, leaving the remnants of the past behind, I breathed in the moment and found a clarity I'd never held before. In reclaiming his story, I knew Michael was now free, and with him, we all were ready to write a new tale amidst the uncertainties that awaited us. Because at the end of the storm, we would find our answers. After all, truth has a way of revealing itself just when we need it most.